I'm Diana Rodriguez. I'm a Google developer expert in 2% Milk. Web technologies, Google Maps platform, and Google Cloud Platform. I'm also a proud Zero ambassador. I'm the chief DevOps architect at VoiceThread. And I also co-lead this amazing organization for women in tech. We're trying to send out an awesome message about we're not a pink corral. Let's all work shoulder to shoulder, and we are not enemies of men or anyone else, just in case. So that's my Twitter. If you want to at me, or if you want to get in touch anytime, if you want to go for drinks too. So I like food, I like infrastructure, I love food, I love Vue, I love food, I like traveling, I like IoT, I love Steven Universe, and this is why you'll see a lot of these thingies, and I love food. It's true, and I can't complain. I had sushi last night, and before going to bed, I smiled, I woke up this morning thinking, I'm hungry. Anyway, enough of this. So that's who I am, right? Who am I not? Do you know this? Do you recognize this? Yes. Who's that woman? Yeah, I'm not the oracle. So whatever you hear from me here is just the scriptures and the gospel according to Diana Rodriguez, and it's a collection of my own experience and what I've seen, including some atrocities, things I've been a victim of. So having said that, let's see, DevOps and IoT, I bet not many people talk about it. First of all, because most of us don't really have it clear. You know what? I think I need to wear my glasses because I'm an old person, I can't see. Oh, much better. So most of us, these two things don't mash up together very well. I'd like to start with a quote I really like from the Vue.js documentation that pretty much illustrates what I stand for. And it's the effects of DevOps. It's not a diet, it's not a fad, it's not a title, it's a culture. We're fostering collaboration around different areas of the same business. So I'll read it. The adoption of DevOps culture, tools, and agile engineering practices has, among other things, the nice effect of increasing the collaboration between the roles of development and operations. And I'll stop there. Key, collaboration. One of the main problems of the past, but also today in some realities, like mine, for example, is that the dev team tended to be uninterested in the operation and maintenance of a system once it was handed over to the ops team, while the latter tended to be not really aware of the system's business goals. Oh, my reading is great this morning. And therefore reluctant in satisfying the operational needs of the system, also referred to as whims of developers. And it's all about collaboration. A real life example. When I was 17 years old, my first job was a family business, a hotel. So I thought I was going to go straight into reception because, it was a family business. I deserve it. I'm entitlement. And my dad, he was very smart. He said, you know what, you have to go through different areas before you can earn being in, the reception, because at the end of the day, I was going to deal with all sorts of problems, right? So I was, in 3 weeks, I went through housekeeping, laundry, kitchen, you name it, I was there. And I didn't understand at first, but when I got to reception, it was cool because I could estimate how long this machine loves me. How long it took for a maid to make a room, I knew how long I could expect the housekeeping department to deal with laundry, and so on. And with this, you know, diving into DevOps or any other area, like in my case, I've been doing infrastructure and back end for so many years. I started doing front end, and it's knowledge that won't hurt you. You know, if you want to collaborate, knowing the process on the other side of this business can only benefit you, right? So it's not like you have to change your specialty. Anyway, so and this is in the an example in the IoT industry. You have your dream team, the people who are in charge of your devices. Then there's those who code the apps, back end and front end and whatever you want it. And then the people in charge of your infrastructure. So establishing a good model of communication and collaboration between the teams is essential. And in the IoT industry, and this can be taken to any other industries, but in the IoT industry, it's all about the feedback. That's how you prevent fires. So in this case, DevOps is about faster time to feedback. But how do we achieve that? In the IoT world, specifically, our feedback is about device performance and usage. Because, yeah, devices, thermostat controllers, I don't know, MyFitnessPal, etc., etc. But what do we do to get that feedback? We have to be careful and design and automate pipelines to improve this, you know, the quality of our deliveries. The code has to be designed to gain insight around usage and performance. And the services have to identify, or through our services, we have to identify how can we drive the most value for our, you know, customers and the business. And I will tell you more about it now. We have to basically gather that data, English, Spanish, all together, perform analytics, and tune it over time to achieve improvements in usage. So if I don't know the behavior of the people that are using my products or using my services, how am I going to improve it? So any performance that is not measured and not accounted for does not exist. That's important. So if we have access to all this information, we can do my favorite thing, you know, predictive maintenance. We put out fires before they start. And I know this is utopic and it sounds amazing, and for some of us, putting fires before they happen is almost impossible. But you know what? Good code, good infrastructure, good QA makes a difference. I have some staggering figures to show you from some stats that will show us what the problem is and why can't we achieve this in a real life scenario. But this is the beginning of everything. The same principles obviously apply to wearables and industrial IoT. So yeah, I mean, it's all about collecting data. With this, we can improve energy consumption or, you know, devices. Just check our devices to improve quality of the service. And with this data, obviously, all our connected devices modify their performance based on customers' unique needs and actions. So monitoring is not only a thing for infrastructure or devices in terms of knowing what's on and off and how is it going from our end, but also on the user side. So yeah, in a few words, feedback equals faster and better enhancements, faster and better updates, and faster and better repairs before things happen. It's like having that long-term relationship and having a good communication that we know it's difficult to have, but it's ideal. And we know it, and we should do it, but there are difficulties, yeah. I like to do this with my own updates and my own pipeline. I identify the reason for the updates. I also like to point out, is this update, if this update is around customer satisfaction, is it for engagement, is it a repair, and how do we measure that effect? Again, monitoring, feedback, collecting data, collecting performance stats, that's important. Those metrics will help us put out fires before they happen. So we can monitor this success or failure. Is it through the increase of consumption of a service, reduction in support calls, or some other metric? And then if you haven't done this yet, you have to establish a way to capture these insights. Do we do it on the devices directly? Do we measure that behavior, etc., performance on those devices? Do we do it through a web service? How do we do it? How do we get that feedback? So anyway, if we keep a balance between monitoring devices, monitoring the code, and monitoring the infrastructure based around, user behavior and the business goals, then we have like a good balance, and we can say, yeah, we're doing things, we're doing best practices, we're doing what we should do. And then success, right? Now about security, and this is when things are going to get on fire. This was a question. So there was this survey done a few months ago, and these are questions. I mean, yeah, I don't need to explain. Do you believe that most IoT devices on the market right now have the necessary security in place? They're faithful customers. Yeah, 48% of them think yes, 52% think no. But what about developers? People. 90% of developers in the IoT industry know that the things they're shipping to production are not safe at all. I mean, what the, I had to change this slide because I had a boy holding a sign saying WTF, and I said it before 600 people. I got a standing ovation, but that's not what we want to. That's not what we want to do. If you want to see this, I will start stand-up comedy again, and then I can complain about it. But yeah, let's think about it. 90% of developers, and these are the same people that use these devices. That's horrible. Do you trust having your personal or private data, tied to IoT devices? 51% of people in good faith, very innocent and very gullible to marketing, said yes. And the other one, probably the 49%, there were probably those developers who know the security is not in place, but they still use it because what the heck, we don't have anything better, do we? So I read through the whole survey, and not to submit you to any more torture. And this is like a summary of the results. 52% of respondents believe that most IoT devices on the market right now do not have the necessary security in place. 49%, same, they don't believe it's safe, but they would still use IoT devices in the market. 18% of people trust having their personal data tied to IoT devices. Nearly 35% claim that the breaches of major companies have not had much of an effect on the trust consumer interest in these brands. They're probably marketing analysts, in denial. 85% of developers surveyed have felt rushed to get an application to market due to demand or pressure in the last 6 months. So what are we talking about? The whims of whom? Is it the dev team, the ops team? Is it marketing analysts? Is it people not being aware? What are we doing from project managers to developers? What are we doing to take a stand and say, yo, we can't push this to production? I've had this fight for many years in important projects. Being asked, okay, can you estimate how long would this take you? And I said, well, I don't know, I'll probably have to migrate users from, I don't know, DynamoDB from Firebase to Dynamo, or touch a database, or do something important. It will take me like 2 weeks. And then my PM say, well, I'm just gonna put 3 days because we need this for Friday. You know? And I assure you that they have no idea. But why? We don't talk about it. We don't discuss these things. We don't have to satisfy the whims of a marketing analyst or a market or executives who have no idea how much of an impact this can have in their own products and the trust of their customers. So
that's why Facebook is paying $5 billion as a fine. So they're
see?
willing to buy, when you get 40 million, pay 5 million, so that's fine, that's fine.
See?
That's still in the game, and you keep your job.
Yeah, thank you. You know, for ethical reasons, I like to ship things I believe in. If I'm an ambassador for a brand, it's because I've used a product that satisfies my needs and I know it's good to recommend. So we have a lot to do, about this. As developers, as people, ethics, the bare minimum. And then, well, the last one, we already saw this one, 90% of developers surveyed do not believe that IoT devices on the market currently have the necessary security in place. Wow, that's horrible. What are we doing about it? I'll give you a great example. So users want smart homes, but the smart home device security isn't inviting, to say none, little to no security. Do you recognize this picture at all? This is from a show called Mr. Robot. This episode is amazing. I showed it to my boss because we do have an IoT component and it was great. So in this episode, the CEO of an important company gets her house hacked. She's locked in, she manages to get in, and then her shower spits cold water, it literally spits. Cold water, then there's music playing in the background, and when she calls for help, she says, well, no, I can't do anything. There are no cables to, pull or any switches to flip. This is all IoT. And it's funny, we are supporting and buying devices that we know are not safe, and we keep pushing unsafe apps to production. We keep fostering this behavior. We are the people in control, I'm not saying that, go and, cause this new revolution and call a union and go and strike until, they let you push, safe applications or whatever, But this is something you should bring up to your team. What are we doing? After all, we're the ones who are, making these things happen. What are we doing to contribute to a safer world, if you want it in cute words? So wait, Wearables 2. Do you remember what happened with MyFitnessPal? It was a stupid injection, the silliest thing, because their devices were pretty much, when you leave Firebase real-time database open for anyone to read and write, it was pretty much the same thing with MyFitnessPal. So 150 million users were compromised. Their information was compromised. I mean, I wish it was something like, it's not safe because if we can push it like that and then we'll patch it, because the worst that could happen is that they take down our database, or that, they take down our website. But no, we're dealing with information. We're dealing with sensitive information. 150 million users, and I still see people buying this crap, Like, what the heck? Are we going to carry on patching? Or are we going to start looking into ways where we can push proper code, proper apps, when we can monitor our performance? We got to raise the bar, people. I know it's hard. I'm a C-level executive, and I still have to fight with boards, with other C-level executives, but I'm making a point, and it's important. So, well, my suggestions, and I know they can be pretty cliche, but sometimes the principle of repetition can help us learn. So the first one would be, we have to, design secure models for update process or for the way we deploy things. We can eliminate error-prone errors by automating. There are tools in infrastructure side like Terraform, Ansible. I was going to say some other tools, but give me allergies, like confirmation. But yeah, we have to secure interfaces with authentication, integrity protection, and encryption. And there are third-party services. I learned through, crashing through many walls that we can't do everything in-house. Sometimes we just can't, Sometimes third-party services are the right thing to do. Then obtaining security assessments, that's important, from a different company than yours, because we have to eliminate conflict of interest, bias, whatever you want. You don't like hearing what's wrong with your stuff. If a friend tells you, you get pissed off. So I better just hire someone else to tell me the truth to my face, and then, okay, we work on it. And the simple one, implement a secret key for root chains and security on devices. Do not push your env variables to your repos. I've seen that. Big companies, passwords, security keys, your API keys for, whatever service. I've seen it. It happens. So sometimes I know it's difficult to implement those things, but it doesn't take much to just talk to the person next to you and say, these are best practices. It only takes one person to start something, and sometimes you got to stand up for what is right, even if you have to stand up alone. Wow. The older I get. Anyway, so let's remember, what devices are we using? What information are we sharing? What information do we have access to? And how are we securing it? Is it really safe? Let's really take that into consideration. I've been doing this for, 18, 19 years, and it's never easy. But best practices exist for a reason. And you're in charge of making a difference wherever you work, wherever you are. So that's the way it's got to be done, even if it's hard. This is a quick example. It's not a pitch or anything. I'm just throwing a flower through a few, security protocols that can be implemented for IoT devices. The MQTT is one of them, and I'm a big fan. I'm not going to go through the details because they're really boring, but something to look at. These are other companies that provide security services and assessments for IoT-related products. It's the same thing with web and mobile. And well, so yeah, the more feedback we get, the more we monitor our own apps. I was going to say our own shite. Oops, I said it. Yeah, the more we monitor, the more information we can get from our own stuff. From our code, from our servers, from the devices connected, from our users, the better we can improve our security. Some providers do offer some good services where you can even add machine learning and train models to recognize these things. This is the case of Google with Cloud IoT Edge. It's the same with Azure IoT services. You get your analytics, and that's a good start to start with this whole preventive maintenance culture. And it's the same with AWS IoT Core. I wanted to do it cloud agnostic. And I'm sure IBM Cloud has something too, I love IBM, yeah. Well, that's all. Thank you very much.